Thank you everybody for being here. We're going to talk about building stores in times of climate change or climate emergency as we call it sometimes. And I really want to start always with acknowledging that climate change is a fact. Hopefully we're going to end with a positive note, but it is a fact, and buildings are responsible for almost 40% of the emissions that we're spewing into the atmosphere. Now, of these emissions, two things to remember. About 28% are from operations and about 11% the stuff that we have in the buildings themselves. So the materials that we use have what we call embodied carbon. So just remember that it's, whenever we turn on the light, whenever we are using electricity, that electricity is generating carbon somewhere else, unless it's renewable energy. And that is accounting for about 28% of the emissions from all our, that we're putting into the atmosphere. So again, operations and materials. So buildings can affect climate change, but we can also reduce our impact on climate change. We can actually offset all of this. And the key thing here is really designing low carbon buildings, low carbon neighborhoods, low carbon cities. And that includes, of course, stores and malls, and we do a lot of these. So that's, when we talk about climate change. But then the other part of the story is really that we all have a lot more awareness of this right now. And, there's lots of data for this. I'm just going to mention a couple of things. About 2/3 of the shoppers worldwide declare it's important that the brands they support are climate conscious and that their stores are environmentally friendly. And if consumers are like my daughters, they look at the fine print. They look at, they say, oh, this is not true, right? They look at things really carefully. Consumers are not going to be tricked by false statements. Half of consumers globally paid a premium for sustainable products. We're always looking for more sustainable products, even if it's more expensive. And more than half of consumers in major Western economies check brand sustainability practices. We are looking at that in, the stuff that we buy, the stuff that we design, the stuff that we finance. We're looking at sustainability practices, ESG, right? We've all heard about that. Drives demand for sustainability and is influencing shopping habits of other generations. That's Gen Z, right? That specific target is really pushing this forward. Now, then on the other side of this, we have buildings. And there's lots of data for this. And these are just, take this as a reference. But, a green building could cost from 0% more to maybe, 4%, 5% more. But it's going to reduce operating costs. It's going to reduce the energy used in the building. It's going to reduce water consumption. It's going to reduce maintenance costs. It's going to have less CO2 emissions. But I think even more important than that, people are going to be happier in these buildings. There's a lot of research. I just didn't put it here, but buildings are, people are going to be healthier, more productive, are going to spend more time in green buildings, right? We all know the impact of daylighting, for example, right? If we have daylight in a space, we enjoy that space more. It's just something that we sort of gravitate to. Where's a window? How do we get daylight? How do we get the breeze? We're always connecting with these forces of nature around us. Now, a couple of these are just to remember always that different climates require different strategies. Also, we design buildings, and we should always remember that. Let's say we have two images there: a hot and dry climate and a hot and humid climate. I've done presentations just like on this topic, and it's really exciting and interesting to think about. Like in a hot and dry climate, buildings are more compact. They're just reducing the amount of heat. Like if you go outside here, right, you have a building that is more compact. It's going to reduce the amount of heat that is coming from the sun. It's going to be more efficient. If you have a building in a hot and humid climate, you want to have more opportunity to get the breezes inside. And then you have these beautiful buildings like in the southern Mediterranean with this, white surfaces that are made of materials that reflect more of the heat and also re-radiate the heat that is being absorbed by that material. So, they look really nice in postcards, but they also have a function that has to do with sustainability. And then if we go and zoom into one of those windows there, then we see solar control, right? We have something that is integrated into design and then it's making the building more efficient and more sustainable. These are always good examples to remember for this. So sustainable design is good, so we should be doing more. And then planet positive design, right, is better. As a firm, we have goals to achieve, and I'll talk a little bit about climate positive design. You know, we for operation and for embodied carbon, right? These are the two things that I mentioned. So we do an energy conservation measures, building simulation, right? We test the ideas that we implement, and then reduce the energy consumption, carbon footprint of the projects. Whenever we can, use renewable energy on site, and offset whatever we cannot sort of like reduce with energy conservation measures or renewable energy. We offset through programs that have to be verified and for energy or for carbon. For materials, life cycle assessment. We can measure now the embodied carbon of materials, so we know how much global warming potential a material has. So these are things that are maybe just in the last 5 years or so. And then we can implement strategies to reduce embodied materials. Some of them have to do with reusing these materials again. And then we can prioritize low carbon materials, for example, using mass timber, using, for example, timber harvested from a sustainably harvested forest has carbon sequestered in it. So it takes carbon from the atmosphere, you put it in your building, you put it in your store, and you've actually helped reduce the building's impact on climate change because you've taken carbon from that material. It's the opposite of steel or aluminum, for example. So what are the things that we do? You know, we really talk about reducing our impact on climate change, making buildings that are healthy human environments. We work with firms with linking sustainability targets to brand goals. We design for climate and location. We do building simulations. We measure daylight. We measure all of these things. That's important. You have to measure them. We do certifications, LEED well. We do gap analysis. We look at clients' current operations and see what are the things that can be done to improve their performance. We look at materials that are being used, and again, simulation and standards. So I'm going to show a couple of examples. This is a carbon positive flagship store that we worked on. And this was over COVID, so we did everything online with the client. And the challenge was to design a world-class flagship store that minimizes carbon emissions. So the client was really looking into, let's minimize, again, just remember always, embodied carbon, operational carbon. And we wanted, the client also wanted to provide an excellent occupant experience. So one of the things that we do, and all of this is pre-concept, right? It's like we're starting to work with the client and what are the ideas that we want to implement, and then we have sketches, or kind of like my initial sketches. We're sharing this with the client, and then we're drawing these ideas also at the same time. Ideas that are going to, sort of like in this case, we're looking at something that improves thermal comfort also outside of the store. And then we're looking at implementing different types of rating systems. This is like day zero, like, just starting with the project. One thing I want to mention about this project, it was really interesting to work, when we started with the client, they had, what is embodied carbon? What is that? And then as we worked with them, it was really a great experience to see the client say, like the architects from the client side, we were like in workshops, like maybe 10, 15 people, and they were saying, no, we cannot use that material because the embodied carbon of that material is too high. We got to use another material, so let's explore other options. So right away, well, not right away, it took a little bit, but it really sort of was really beautiful experience to see how, again, we're working together in this. This is a mall in Milan. We want to really look at sustainable environment for traditional resource intensive, and we start with climate. What you see here is also sort of like the first steps. We do a lot of climate analysis, really understanding the climate and location. And then again, these are kind of like my sketches looking at summer and winter and how we're going to react in this location in Milan to this project. And then what you see there is this sort of like big element that is connecting the whole mall together. And we looked at different options. I have like 100 slides that I could show just on this study that we did for this element, in which we looked at different positions of the sun, different types of solutions for different angles and locations, looking at summer and winter. And again, just trying to respond to these two key things. Where is the sun, and how do we provide the daylight that we need without providing too much heat? It's another project. It's a confidential office building that is going to be replicated. The first one of these is under construction in different parts of the world. So what we did is a timber construction kit of parts, right? So timber, we're reducing embodied carbon. Then we included photovoltaic systems in it to produce renewable energy. And then we have a system of external louvers, I'll show you that, to provide daylight on the inside. So again, for this location, we're starting with, again, with the sun. Where is the sun? How do we respond to that? And then what you see there is a rooftop that is angled in a way in which you're providing daylight all year, but you're never going to provide direct light inside the space. So it's angled, and then the other side, which is the south side, is going to always get solar energy for the PV system. What you see on the bottom right is then variations for different locations in the world. So this office is going to be connected to another type of building, and it's going to be located in different parts of the world. And how do we make like small adjustments to that to make it work better in these different locations? So this is, sort of like the structural model system. It had to be adapted also to different sites with different positions and different forms. So we used this structural sort of like module, again, built with mass timber. We were working with the with the timber manufacturer, with the structural engineer, mechanical engineers. And one thing I would always stress is that this is also early phase, and we're working with the client. We're working with all the engineers, with consultants, cost consultants, always, together as a team. For this project, we also did a lot of this online because there's people from all over the world. Sometimes there are like maybe 40 people in a meeting, just again providing input in different areas. And you see one of the examples there on the left side with it had to adapt to growth, different phases, and again it's a net zero whole life carbon prototype that can be installed anywhere in the world. This is a project in Madrid. It's under construction right now. They actually had to do a lot of construction during the summer while the people were on vacation in Spain. But the project is happening as the offices are occupied. So this is a building that is in Madrid, about 40 years old. And what you see here on the left is the original building. Again, it's dated, right? You can see it's substandard windows, not enough thermal insulation. Entrance looks dark, right? It's not really very welcoming, right? It's not a happy building. So then what we did is we reclad the building. We stayed the structure. We're not demolishing the structure, but all of the envelope is new and it's different. And we actually integrated PVs in the envelope to actually generate more energy. So the envelope now becomes like the power generator of the building. It looks more contemporary, right? We have a better entrance. So it's really focusing on an envelope that makes the building work really well. And circular economy is something also important for retail, right? It's like, how do we use materials over and over again and reduce the waste that we use? We really have to think about these things. And some of the existing granite is, used in other parts, is milled into an aggregate. So again, we're trying to reduce waste and improve the performance of the project by looking at the envelope. Also at an urban experience, right? It's a building that is in a really nice area in Madrid. So we look at the south side. There was like nothing there. It was just like concrete pavement. So now there's an experience there. You can walk through it. There's areas to sit. There's plants. So again, sort of connecting with that. Another project is Terminal 2, Guadalajara Airport. key things here, hey, traveling right now, it's not much fun, right? It's like a lot of stress. So we want to do two things. Enhance the experience, make this a good experience for traveling, and then reduce the impact of carbon for the terminal. So, different strategies, daylight, lots of studies, but what I want to sort of emphasize here is also the experience is connected with sustainability. So the daylight, the biophilia, nature, views, all of that is something we can, we have all the retail stores there, and it's all part. Let's say it's not. We don't have to think of sustainability as just like, oh, energy conservation. It enhances the experience of the space through the strategies that we implement. So again, and we measured daylight, we measure the glare. So again, I just really want to emphasize that biophilia, right? Nature inside, daylight, views, all of this is really sustainability. A couple more things in Novasport. This is really, it's a sports store, but what we're looking here is, can we implement some of the things that we do with metrics, right? With a store, we we have our Apple Watch or whatever, and we're looking at performance, and then we can sort of implement that and connect that with sustainability. So two more slides. I just want to show two things you're working on, measuring carbon. So again, I just mentioned embodied and operational carbon. We have here two axes. We're looking at zero there as sort of like zero carbon for both of these. And then we can look at where our work is in this sort of, in these quadrants, right? So we're looking at everything in the bottom left is climate positive. You have a positive impact on the environment. You're offsetting emissions from other buildings. It's like a tree. Your project is like a tree. Everything in zero is like there's no positive or negative impact. It's right at the and then everything on the sort of like in the line there is I don't have the pointer, but it's you have the embodied and the operational carbon. So the other thing that we've done is we have Climate Scout. It's a tool, it's a free tool, just search for it. It provides strategies to make your buildings more efficient and more appropriate for a specific climate. We're working right now, we're adding a new version. It should come out maybe in a couple of months, in which we are now connecting that with carbon. So you have your climate strategies and you have your carbon impact in it. And we got the Fast Company Award for this world-changing ideas. So if you want to connect with us, we have Cindy here, happy to talk with you also, and Robin also, and happy to connect with all of you.
Wonderful, Pablo. Thanks so much. Do we have any? Is there a question? We probably have time for a question if someone wants to ask something.
My question is that this kind of studies and the development that you're working on can be applied to a large development
Yeah.
if you're building from scratch or you're doing a whole building. But like our stores occupy maybe 5,000 square feet in a big mall.
Mhm.
So what are the options that we can incorporate into our design to attain something closer to sustainability?
Yes, I think one of the key things would be looking at circular design, right? The circular economy. How do you, that's why I'm talking about embodied and operational. So definitely operational is relatively easy because if you have it inside a mall, it's already sort of defined by the mall's strategies. But then the materials that you use in the store, and we've actually done with this couple of clients, you can measure the embodied carbon of those materials. So you can measure the impact. When I say embodied carbon, it's global warming potential. So everything you put in the store, you can see what impact it's going to have on global warming. And you can design the store in a way in which you could reuse some of these materials. Imagine if you can take some of these things out and reuse them in another place, maybe in an office, maybe in residential, but you're designing for reuse. So that global warming potential is not, transmitted to the atmosphere. You're reusing it over and over again. That's, I would say, is one of the most important things that you can do in a store.
Pablo, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.